It's not an everyday occurrence that we get to see, I guess we can say it's a relative term, new metal song debuts complement each other in simultaneous thematic recognition and thus presentation. Yet we have an example today with XANDRIA's newest single, Universal, which I'm very excited to dig into just by the XANDRIA credit alone. Many of you know I'm a fan of this group of symphonic and power metal fusion prowess. And I speak on more of an informed perspective that goes beyond the 6 numbers we witnessed together. In fact, it's many more numbers. And I won't get ahead of myself, but Universal is just the first step towards a fun venture we're taking with XANDRIA that's going to develop in the next couple of weeks. I haven't told you it's coming. I'll leave its realization to its own display, but it's a fun story you're going to be witnessing as we progress. Anyway, Universal as a song bears in mind for me an analogous experience we took very recently in, like, what we're about to entertain of Universal. I'm very excited to do so on fresh witness grounds, a collaborative respect with another piece we humor together, which music is always best enjoyed that way. However we approach, by the way, I want to keep this a welcome space for all, whether you're a longtime XANDRIA fan or just emerging in understanding of their work, and this is your first experience. I think it's going to be fun just on temptation. But no pun intended for where I'm going. As I was saying, considering the thematic intention as declared by the artists, I can't help but think of another analogous tune that we humored with similar intention on theme, that being Within Temptation's Bleed Out, a favorite Dutch group of mine. And the title song of that record speaks to, from what I remember based on band declaration in a more generalized way, but it speaks to the plight of women in the Middle East, who, on the grounds of continued human rights abuses that not only have happened frequently over the course of history, but are still ever present in various news headlines and outlets. And it's quite a tragic affair to see so many stories of horror, namely towards women. It's a very tragic affair to still see those stories ever so prevalent. XANDRIA is speaking to a very similar respect. And by the way, Bleed Out, I recommend it as a release if you have not humored the song. It is a perfect study into that particular issue, especially on mood. It still amazes me how it's one with a perfect finesse, but the balance between tragedy of common occurrence and empowerment just it really shocked me at that level of precision. I can't recommend Bleed Out enough as a release. Experience it for yourself, and you'll see why I say it's a complementary experience to Universal. Similar in that they both allow for an adaptability of narrative while keeping it true to the structure of the lyrics. If you want to read into it from a personalized empowerment sense, there is that capability to do so where, again, let's keep it faithful in marriage to the intention of the band as stated in lyrical framework, but if we need to transpose, our own identity and stories and map them into the lyrics, there's the availability to do so. And Universal states that outright. In memory of Gina Masha Amini, I'm going to get to her, and for all the brave people everywhere else in the world who fight for human rights. Human rights are universal, but they are not respected everywhere, and where they are, they can be taken away again. That means that we all need to be constantly defending them, and we need to be standing together with all people in the world for that. That is a message I'm sure that we all understand, especially in the socially conscious age that we live in today, considering various social ills in a worldwide respect. And many groups, because this is the way the artistic world works, take that spirit of a plight and yearning into music and other various forms of artistic languages, but music for me is the admitted favorite. And that's what we're going to see today with Universal. Again, that broad interpretation of how it can personally apply to perhaps each and every one of us in our own respects and our life stories. But again, pointed direct message, and this is very much a tribute number to, as I said, I'm imagine I'm mispronouncing the name. I apologize if so, and feel free to clarify if you wish to down below. Gina Masha Amini. Her story is not one I knew about walking in, but I think in mindset of Universal, and to see this as a tribute number that it is, and to remember people's stories of those who have dealt with tragic mistreatments that sadly ended in, one's passing. Let's remember those stories and bear it in mind as we hear the story of Universal come to life and experience not only XANDRIA's newest piece, which will be fun enough, but this real spirit of motivation behind the lyrics. I'm sure every intention of word and gesture. In September 2022, Masha Zina Amini, a young woman from Iran's oppressed Kurdish minority, visited Tehran with her brother. She was stopped and arrested by Iran's minority police, who routinely arbitrarily detain women who did not comply with the country's abusive and discriminatory compulsory veiling laws. Eyewitnesses said that police pushed her into a van and beat her, taking her to Vozara Detention Center in Tehran. Amini and her brother were told that she was being transferred to Vozara for an educational class aimed at reforming the behavior of women and girls who violate the country's rigid Islamic dress code. Her brother was also beaten when he protested. Hours after her arrest, credible reports arose that the morality police had subjected her to torture and other ill treatment inside the police van, including those beatings to her head. She fell into a coma and was transferred into an ambulance to Khazra Hospital in Tehran. She died in custody 3 days later in hospital on the 16th of September 2022, and she was just 22 years old. It's a very sad story. Inexcusably barbaric, at least by the actions of what's written here. That's just sad to read about. Obviously, a plight that still needs to be recognized in concentration of people's real stories. Lives that we might be on the complete other side of the globe, and these are not necessarily aware to us, but media headlines and world awareness gives us. And the artistic world beautifully spotlights. And I'm sure we'll carry on a resonant dominance with XANDRIA. I'm sure this number will pierce us in its execution. Not just in thematic grounds, but on score construction. XANDRIA very much impresses. I cannot wait to dig into this one just on those grounds alone. I'm sure it will be a tribute number faithful to the spirit of Amini's memory. And I will also tell you in preparation, as I said, I'm not going to get ahead of myself in spoiling what I have coming, and not to make this all about, me or our journeys together and what I've planned, because again, let's keep us in the tribute number respect of what it is. But Universal, if this is just a statement of fact, Universal is going to unlock a very interesting journey for us that you will see adapt. I haven't told you this is coming. You know I love symphonic metal, and XANDRIA is a particular favorite. This is something I've been working on for a number of months. But if you're into symphonic metal, and artist spotlights of various points of recognition, all connected on origin to XANDRIA. Again, this is the beauty of music, especially when it pertains to the European metal market. I've noted this before. This is what is best used as a networking agent for our purposes. We listen to one group, get entertained, and then, of course, exhaust ourselves in presentation of what we will from XANDRIA in a mutual steady. It's going to be so much fun. I'm recording this after I finished everything, by the way. So this is coming out first. So everything else is done. It just needs to be edited through, but I know what's coming. You don't yet, but you'll see. Very, very, very soon, as of tomorrow, our ride through will start. Anyway, similar to what we've experienced with other European favorites of mine, where we start with one credit and elaborate, find connections to all sorts of new artists within the metal world today, or maybe even outliers to that. Anybody's welcome to platform here as far as I'm concerned, and we are going to take an exhaustive journey where XANDRIA is our opener, with many connection points fostered. If you know XANDRIA's history, I'll give you this prelude. I think you can guess some particular facets of where we will go together. One in particular is really exciting to me that you will see develop very shortly. But again, when I say exhaustive study, you don't know what I've been working on just yet. I can't wait to reveal it. I can't emphasize it enough. Collaborative consultations that we take together, embracing so many different artists, is such a welcome retreat for me, and I hope it is the same for you. If you are learning about XANDRIA for the first time, stick with me here. Even more so than just the territory of 6 numbers off the wonder still awaiting, and the full run through I promised you I would take, and I have a couple times now. We're going beyond that. And our world of symphonic metal concentration, as well as other like metal styles, is about to explode. Alongside many other credits, I got a number of names to get to. My list grows steadily, but this XANDRIA journey, you'll see in time. But for now, let's welcome Universal together. Already glows on origin. I love the vocal presence. Oh, sweet. They brought back the choir. So alive in the layer that they embody over the song. Paired though with that score, it's gorgeous.
By every day, but I never
I see the spirit of empowerment explicitly in the lyrics. Very well written. And beautifully imagined, too. I love the design work of this one. Perfect. The percussion presence too is a bit individual with this one, especially with the transitional section of this number. Visual stylization as well emphasizes connection points to the narrative drive. It's beautifully faithful. Evident tribute performance. My respect. Amber is shining with this one. I've been saying she's falling into her role very well with XANDRIA. This is one of the best pieces I've seen of her yet. This one breathes well. All these break areas in the song with a softer presence, whether they be on the background folk. I just have to pause for that. All that is left is the pain you feel, but all this blood has not been shed in vain. I was curious to see if they would adapt to a new key. I'm glad they kept it in the same place. The piece is going to speak to many. I already see that capability. Let's just bask in this together. I love how sustained this is too. You know, I'm right now thinking back. Do I make the comparison? I think so. You know, I'm not one to rank things, and I don't want to lessen the impact of Reborn. Because in memory of going down the XANDRIA route and starting with The Wonder Still Awaiting from a 6-track selection, as I said, that one just stands out in its own presence to me, because Reborn was just such a beautiful piece. I freaking love that one. Still holds up so well in any re-listen I give it. I'm tempted to say that Universal is at the same level for me, because I'm instantly throttled back. I think it's fair to attribute. I consider Let's Talk About First as tribute essence. Beautifully imagined on lyrics. Very well told. Where's that one line? Once we will just be a memory. All that is left is the pain you feel, but all of his blood has not been shed in vain. And that's just one line to mention. No more possessing our bodies and mind. No more oppression by your holy lies. Enough is enough. Now we claim it back, our universal right. To reiterate, this is beautifully written, and it's a perfect tribute story that XANDRIA should be quite proud in creating. To Amini's story, This is a beautiful retelling and a great opportunity for all of us who never had the privilege to meet the woman, whether it be, in the flesh or by news headlines, that Universal serves as an education experience. As I said, XANDRIA should feel quite proud. I'm taking the experience in just even in momentary reflection, and I'm very impressed with what was created here. And I'll get to the music in a minute because it's an invigorating listen, but I read that narrative. Universal gives a perfect window into the life that she lived, and the legacy that we can carry on in telling her story and hopefully fixing issues where they're obviously warranted to have some intervention. I would believe, just based on what I read for you, at least on getting an understanding for Amini's background, which Universal, as I said, just perfectly speaks to. And there's the open, as I said, desire by band intention and by the way the lyrics are stylized on narrative. There's that open relatability that I'm sure anybody can find access, where sympathy is warranted, right? Commiseration for anybody who might be facing an adversarial situation of life, whatever that looks like in any sort of social ill context. Anything that needs a human rights enhancement intervention, we'll say. There is that open desire for connection. And that's what I love about music, again, is the open catharsis. It's why I threw myself into the metal scene so many years ago. I needed that connection for myself in times of my own distress or obstruction. I won't personalize all this because I want to do service to Lady Amini in terms of her story and keep concentration where it is due. But, we've all been through different situations. It's easy to find a home with the narrative of Universal and see that spirit of empowerment beautifully communicated in such a transcendent way. I find it to be an achievement in XANDRIA's library, in my opinion. As I said, right up there for me in terms of debut experiences like with Reborn. And not just, again, on the lyrical construction, but the score. And Amber's presence specifically. As a vocalist, I've said, I stand by this, though in the windows of experience I have with XANDRIA. Okay, I'll tell you at least a little hint of what's coming. A couple pieces with Lisa Middelhoff's time with the group, and you'll understand why there, as well as much more elaborate studies of Neverworld's End on. So, with the vocal respects, Manuela Kraler, Diana van Giersberg, and Amber Verhees, I'm considering everybody in that field, and each era to XANDRIA, I have a foothold in of favorability. I know with the XANDRIA fan community, everybody has their particular favorite point. And there are achievements to mention again in specific regard. But I will say that I've said this commonly now in preparation of where we're going with Amber and what I know of her and what I've seen in more recent explorations of XANDRIA's work from her vocal performances. She's really falling into her role well. I took a liking to her ever since I was first introduced to XANDRIA thanks to the connection brought about by the Mortemia collab that she did for the Hourglass. That's what introduced me, and as well alongside one of you, a comment to the XANDRIA world, and I fast-tracked intentionally, and I'm glad I did. I've been saying it though from the beginning, and I stand by it, especially with respect to Universal. She's a perfect fit for XANDRIA. I love the melded pop tone with her higher inflections. It's just so cool to hear. And then the operatic performances just radiate here in their dominance. The intentional enhancement, the allowment of the instrumental score to, in effect, subside a bit, though it's equally fierce. But the vocals here for the operatic just hit for me here on a bit of a depth it's quite interesting. I'd say maybe on the operatic, it was specialized in the beginning of The Wonder Still Awaiting, yet I find it now kind of does this pseudo-melding in a way, if that makes sense, with maybe the closest approximate. The range on the depth and the richness of accent immersion, I believe, though I might have that wrong, to Manuela Kraler's vocals, if you know them. It just kind of nears that in effect for me, where I'm like, there's sort of a different orientation how the operatic vocals are displayed here that makes it a bit individual. But still equally capable. I love operetics. Especially in the symphonic metal world. Oh, there's so many credits to highlight, and many in accordance to XANDRIA that are upcoming that, I cannot wait to spotlight who I'm thinking of at the moment right now. I'll leave that as a hint for later. Anyway, you'll see. But, man, this is a powerful piece, and blended with that score, the emphasis on the harshness, actually, speaking, we're going to refer back to the narrative in a minute in respect to the visualization. Speaking of it being a tribute number, it's a band performance. I like the decision, by the way. But there is the temptation to go down a story path as well. Even the color palette kind of speaks to this in a way. The way this is intentioned is so obvious to me. With certain positioning of shots, The scarf influences. Not only is that a beautiful display in terms of background effect, I love scarf work. Speaking of the spirit to Amini's story and the circumstances involved, I consider the human rights plight and what happened to her in light of what Xandria is imagining on visual immersion techniques and that design work to how certain shots are pictured. It's like right in line with the narrative destination. I think it's freaking fantastic. The display is just such a, again, in every facet to this number, it's not only a beautiful symphonic metal contribution with a fierceness and aggressiveness on the riff structure that I really like, with sections of breath and beautiful development into different verses, and the vocal presence here just really clicks with me, whether operatic, of course, or even melodic. Amber really is settling into her role. But the obvious intention to the tribute side of Universal, much like Bleed Out, but this one even more specifically so based on, the story involved and how that's intentioned by the visual performance paired with the lyrics. This is a very admirable piece on concept and theory of where it can go, and it explodes as a number. Can stand in its own rights as a proficient expression of Xandria's catalog, but with the added definition, it becomes even more reverential. And I would say personally, in perfect consideration of Amini's story, I think she'd be proud to have her story told like this. What a beautiful piece to entertain. I knew it'd be a good single just considering it was Xandria, but in reverence to a human rights travesty. And those types of conversations are active every day, in our own communities and, our own nations, wherever we are, and whatever circumstances involved. It's important to remember people's testimonials, right? And I speak from a variety of respects on that, not just for, my own. I've been candid about it in other videos, and I won't personalize it again to give respect to Amini and concentration, but, I think of my own struggles and challenges I've been met with in life where you could say there are certain social inadequacies that I've been victimized of. And I consider not only my personal will, I consider biblical teaching about valuing those in, broken and needy states, whoever that might be. Just, again, the adversities of life that are inevitable, in the reality we live in an imperfect world. It's important to lift each other up and be supportive and to value people's stories. That's what connects us, as human beings. And music is just a perfect avenue for this. Again, that cathartic spirit. I respect it so much. It's what I ran to when I was, emotionally needy and I needed a sense of self-empowerment, or even just to find access to achieving that, or just a human connection, something that says, I get where you're at. I understand you. There's various places we look for resonation with the human spirit and struggle. And music is a particular avenue of fascination for me that time and time again, we look at many realistic stories here of what inspire motivations behind creative works, and Universal will live on in my memory. Easily. It's a perfect tribute number. Beautifully constructed, score-wise, instrumentally, vocally, of course, and lyrically, plus with the complementary production. I can't get past that. It's just a performance video told with intention. It's so obvious to me. I respect it. Again, inevitable that I would fall in love with another Xandria piece. With more adventures to come, and we're starting it on a high note with this number, it'll live on in my memory and in service to Amini's story as it absolutely deserves to, and the stories of many others, I'm sure. It's a very inspirational and resonant work, told with passion and intention. I freaking love it. It's a fantastic contribution to the Xandria catalog. I would love to hear your thoughts down below on it as well, and whatever angle you approach, longtime fan, or you're just walking in, and if so, wasn't that an experience? Stick with me. You're going to get quite an education with Xandria if you liked this one. Not to brag, I'm excited to show you what's been in the waiting wings for like 6 to 7 months now. It's about to be fully realized. You like Xandria? You feel welcomed in by the graces and the depth of Universal? Just wait until you see what's coming starting tomorrow. I am so excited for you to get a window into this. Universal is just the beginning. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.